And welcome back, everybody. The Real Estate Guys back, although just one of us is here this weekend, Pete Belcastro, taking a little journey, and he'll be back with us next week. We'll welcome him back at that time. Our future show lineup coming up. You can check out our past shows at realestateshowOregon.com and get a lot of great information about our partners there, everything you're looking for. And if you happen to miss a show on one of the Saturday runs at 11 o'clock in the morning here, shame on you. But you could always go back and catch it on our website there. And our television shows are also archived through the YouTube channel there at realestateshowOregon.com. Appraisals are going to be the topic of our program today. We've got a great panel lined up, and let me introduce them to you now and bring them onto the program, as we're going to have a really good discussion today. And I'm interested to learn some things about the appraisal game, and it's something that buyers, sellers, agents, lenders, and everybody in the transaction kind of holds their breath on as you come down the stretch and you get that number as you get close to closing the process of a sales transaction. And you hope that number comes out pretty close to what the agreed price is on, because if it doesn't, there's a problem for the lender, there's a problem for the buyer, and there's a difference that has to be made up there before the deal's going to get done. So I'm going to try to demystify a little bit of that today. Let me welcome first to the program our appraisal who is joining us today. Her name is Debbie Poole from Deborah Poole Appraisals. And thanks, Debbie, for coming in today and taking the time to share your thoughts and insights with us.
Well, thank you. We appreciate being here.
We're looking forward to learning some good things, because we don't often get to have a lot of interaction as brokers with appraisers. Most of that is done between you and the lenders these days as things have changed, but it's all part of the process that we have to understand to get to the closing and get to the final finish.
That's right. We do.
Welcome, Stacy Bowles, as well. First off, I promised folks we would explain your latest title. Stacy's a principal broker with Keller Williams and just been an outstanding agent and an outstanding member of our industry here in the Rogue Valley for a long time, but the Oregon Association of Realtors Director for RVAR, which means?
It's just very simple. I am just a representative from Rogue Valley Association of Realtors to the Board of Directors for the Oregon Association of Realtors.
And that seems a natural connection, because you've had a lot of connections at the state level, a lot of activity here locally. So
yes,
that all just, you're perfect for the job then.
A lot of travel to Salem.
Yeah, you get to see a lot of the folks up there. Better you than me, because I I don't know if I could. I don't know. You just have to. It's a lot to work through up there, and a lot that we are constantly kind of defending ourselves in our industry from.
Absolutely,
and important work that's done there. Ross Rampy, welcome, Ross, to the program.
Thank you.
Talked up your golf game. You're also a heck of a lender down there. Par Mortgage, you've been there for how long?
I've owned Par Mortgage since 1995, and I've been a broker since 92 here in the Valley.
My gosh, you've helped a lot of people buy and sell homes. It's and continue to do so.
Well, thank you.
And the appraisal process is that's one of the big days for you as your clients go down the stretch and our clients go down the stretch. Yeah. It's interesting. The appraisal. How best, Stacey? How best can we describe the appraisal in the course of a real estate transaction? It's the lenders really their gauge for what the true price, the true value of that home is.
Exactly, and the entire loan and the entire sale depends on it.
And it's a process by which professionals like Debbie will come to a property that's under contract and give a very thorough examination of that property. As I understand it, compare it to other properties of similar value, age, and neighborhood characteristics. And just overall, when you get there, when you start a job, what do you undertake to get to that fair price in the end?
Well, there are a number of steps to be taken. Of course, before we even go out to the property, we take a look at the contract and find out what is being sold and what's included in the sale. And then go out to the property, do a full inspection, which would entail measuring the house and making notes of, as you said, all of the amenities and the rooms and the site. We take a look at inside and outside, quality and condition, the age of the home, the neighborhood, and then we take all that information back to our office and sit down and really work on looking up comparable sales for that particular property.
So you get a great idea of what the characteristics of that specific property are. And then your job is really to go find what the sales trends and what the values have been reflected in properties of very similar characteristic.
Well, we try for very similar.
Not always. Yeah.
In this valley, there's a lot of properties that don't have anything very similar to them. There's a lot of very unique properties here. And so we're really blessed to have such a beautiful area with so much variety, but it makes it a lot tougher on appraisers, and I'm sure for buyers and sellers sometimes as well to know what their property's worth.
Yeah, it's probably pretty straightforward if you're in a residential area in one of the larger cities in the valley and have some quarter-mile comps around that
Right.
But not all those properties. We've got rural properties. We've got properties just outside of our cities of varying sizes, and yeah.
That's right. And we have to look at zoning requirements and things like that as well, which are becoming more and more under scrutiny by lenders to make sure that the property actually does conform with the neighborhood and with the zoning of that area.
And tell us a little bit about in the lending process and in the process of a contract being executed, whereabouts the appraisal comes in, about how long does it take, and then that final number can change some things if it's not close to what the agreed upon price is.
That's true. It can possibly change the agreed upon price. And
we'll have Ross talk about that from a lending standpoint, but about how long, when you come to a property, about how long does it take you to analyze it, do the comps, and actually get a report back to the lender?
Well, at the property, it can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours to inspect, just based on the size of the property. Once I get home, back to my office, I take a look at all the comparables, and it's a varying time. It's really different. If it's a subdivision home, that can typically take about a day to do. If it's a larger property, they can take 2 days, sometimes 3. It just depends on how complex it is.
Yeah, and each one is of its own nature. By its own nature, will take its own amount of time and own amount of research to really flesh out. Ross, when you're in the lending process and you've got a buyer that's kind of chomping at the bit to get the deal done, how do you prepare them for the appraisal process? And we've seen appraisals. We've had some big market swings, and that has been a really tough job for the appraisers and for everybody involved to keep up with some pretty big swings through the last 10 years of our local market here. So let's talk about it in the buyer's process, where that appraisal comes in and effects that has.
Well, so before I order the appraisal, I want to make sure because I don't want to order an appraisal before the home inspection is done, because the home inspections has a lot to do with the appraisal process also. Yeah. If somebody's going to buy a piece of property and the home inspection shows a bunch of things that are wrong and they back out of the deal because of that, I don't want my client to go out and pay for an appraisal for a property that they're not going to buy.
Right.
So I'm trying to take care of my clients' needs in that way. So I kind of wait to see how they feel about the home inspection, and then we order the appraisals. We order every appraisal is done through appraisal management companies now. We haven't been able to order our own appraisals for years now because of HVCC from years ago. So, we order the appraisal to the appraisal management company. They blast it out, or they blast it out to all their appraisers to see who's willing to take on that project, because there's some properties out there that appraisers don't they don't want to take, that 100-acre, off the grid. Do they really want to go out there and do that? So, and then they from there they contact the listing agent or the selling agent to go in and take a look and to get in, and then after they do it, they send the appraisal back to the appraisal management company. They review it and to see if they see any errors into it, and then if they find something, they send it back to Debbie, and then Debbie's got to correct it and send it back, and then they take it to the lender, and then the lender looks at it and see if they like everything. And so you want to know why you can't do things in 30 days anymore?
Yep.
It's just, what they see something that they don't think is right, it goes back to the appraiser. That could take 1 to 3 days. And so what you try to do at the beginning is try to just counsel your clients and saying, here's the process, here's what's going to happen and how the time frame is, and set them up for that.
Yeah. And Stacey, you've seen over the years pretty dramatic change in the landscape.
Changes.
Yeah, and the way that realtors and appraisers, lenders and appraisers, give us an overview of how we used to be able to do things, and now the changes that were brought on and where those changes came from.
Well, as the board likes to say, back when the earth cooled, when I got licensed, we had a more familial relationship with our appraisers. Basically, a realtor could almost pick their appraisal. As long as the appraiser was on the bank's approved list, you got to know the appraiser. You can say, hey, I request appraiser X. They'd send appraiser X out. You could have a deep conversation with the appraiser. You could help them with comps. You could do all this, and everything was hunky-dory. And then came the appraisal management system, where they threw all the appraisers into a pool and basically did it on a rotation basis. Well, what we found on that, when I got my first phone call from an appraiser in Kansas who wanted me to send them comps for an appraisal in Medford, there's something wrong with this picture. Yeah. And so there was kind of a little bit of hostility at that point between the agents and the appraisers. But what the board did was get together an appraiser-realtor committee. And we worked out a lot of those kinks. And we realized that the appraisers were just as frustrated as we were. Mm-hmm. And so I think throughout the years, we've worked our way through that. I mean, there's way back when you could even, if an appraiser had done an appraisal on a house and the deal fell through, the next buyer could even go to the original buyer and offer him maybe a reduced price and buy that appraisal. I mean, it was that easy. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's become much, much more strict. And appraisers now, and this is, where I preach to the agents, please talk to your appraisers because they have to verify every comparable. In other words, they have to pick up the phone and talk to the agent and find out if there were any concessions, what the condition of the property was, et cetera, et cetera. If that agent doesn't answer the phone, they've got to throw that comp out. Mm. And as an agent, I want the other agent to answer the phone because I want that comp for my sale. Yeah. And a lot of times if an appraisal comes in low or something, an agent will say, well, why didn't you use this comp? And basically the appraiser has to say, it's because I couldn't get a hold of somebody to confirm that comparable. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it has changed a lot.
And where did those changes come from, and how did they come about?
Gee, I don't know. I think it came from the appraisal side. There we go.
You can thank the Attorney General Como from the state of New York. Mm-hmm. Years and years ago, they found out that a defunct bank that was bought out by Chase, that used to be Station's headquarters a little bit north of us, they actually caught Washington Mutual asking their appraisers to manipulate values to get their loans done. Mm. So then the state of New York started the HVCC, which Home Value Code of Conduct, and they wouldn't allow mortgage brokers or banks to order their appraisal. They had to go to a pool. Well, for a while, it was only in the state of New York. Well, Fannie and Freddie picked up on it, and now it went national.
And that was about how long ago?
10 years? Mm-hmm. 8 years?
Probably more like 8 years.
8 years ago. So what it did, it with that conduct, the appraiser, the real estate agents and the lender are not allowed to talk to the appraiser at all about value. You can talk about other things, but you can't I can't call Debbie up and say, hey, Debbie, how are we doing here? Do you think we're going to make value? Because that's all taboo now. So that makes their job a lot more difficult.
A lot tougher.
Well, to some degree. Yeah. On the other hand, we used to get a lot of phone calls from especially lenders saying, we need you to make this particular value or we don't have a deal. And there was a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. And it's really such a blessing for us now.
We don't get the calls from the irate agents either.
We don't. And it makes our jobs more independent, which is what we're supposed to be, is an independent view of the value of the property.
That's really interesting. How long have you been doing appraising?
About 15 years.
Yeah, so you've seen the entire landscape completely change over that period of time. And I guess the key point is now you can pick and choose when you need to speak to a realtor or get some comps or get some information on those.
Yes.
That door's not open the other way.
Well, the agents are allowed to give us comps, not to direct value, but they can give us what they think is a comparable. Yeah. And I do have that happen sometimes when I show up for an inspection. I'll meet the agent and they have printed out a number of comparables that they say, this is what I was thinking of when I priced this home. And it's perfectly allowable, and I have the option of using or not using those comps.
And your whole deal is about finding comparable properties and comparable values. So I don't see how that hurts the process at all. If your more well-trained eye can filter through those comps and find some that actually relate to and in the ways that they were hoping for, it's going to help their case.
Right. And you can fill in the blanks a little bit too, like I was saying earlier. If she can't confirm a comparable, then the agent may have it, and they may get a second shot at confirming that comparable.
Important to still communicate and when that opportunity presents itself, because in the bottom line, you're trying to get your client through the process and get them closed and into their new home and get the sellers on their way. We're up against our first break, but stay tuned. 2 more segments coming in the Real Estate Show, and we are going to continue to examine the appraisal game and how it's changed and how it's going to go forward.
The Real Estate Show family.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the Real Estate Show for the weekend of October 24th. Great to have you along here as we go down the stretch in October already. That's true. Busy weekend, though. Make sure you make it out and check out the Home Builders Association of Jackson County Tour of Homes. This is the last weekend. You're going to get a chance on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to be out there and about. So you still got Saturday afternoon and all day Sunday. HBJCA. Check their website out, and they've got the whole schedule of the tour of homes, and it wraps up tomorrow. But you still got time to even get out this afternoon and see some of the most innovative and well-built homes, brand new homes. Builders are out there, realtors are out there to talk to you about these new building practices and some of the great opportunities that are out there. It's really a showcase. And it's not often that these people open up their homes and let you just traipse through there and poke around and look at all their energy efficient systems and ask questions and things like that. So great opportunity to be out there, and I hope to see some of you folks out there. Going to be hosting some open houses myself out in the tour of homes. So hope to meet some of you out there and just tell you about all the great things that are going on. Stacey, you going to make it out to any of those? Or
No.
No? It's an
I'm in the
honest
process
answer.
of moving, so I'm packing boxes.
See, I was going to say, otherwise, you probably see enough homes as it is without having to go out on the tour of homes.
Exactly.
Brad Bennington's a partner in the show, though, so we are way in. And, I'm going to have a chance to host an open home, and I'm going to just take my wife on Sunday and go tour some of those because there's some really neat homes out there. Visit their website to learn more about that. Continuing our topic on appraisals now, Debbie Poole from Deborah Poole Appraisals is in the house, along with Stace Bowles, the principal broker out at Keller Williams, and Ross Rampey from Par Mortgage. We're continuing to work our way through the appraisal process and learn some good things in that first segment. And Ross, you're in the position when the appraisal comes in to deal with your client. And the biggest fear for the brokers that are involved and the clients that are involved and the lender is you have an appraisal that comes in that's well below the sales price that's been agreed upon. And the catch with that is that the lenders won't lend above that value assessed by the appraisal. And so, when you hit that roadblock, or what are the options? Where do you go from there when you have an appraisal that will come in a little bit low and is not what the agreed upon sales price is?
So if it doesn't appraise for this, the sales price, you take a look at what your options are. The options are to renegotiate with the seller and have them lower the sales price, or come in between sometimes, or have the buyer come up the whole difference. And so whenever that is done, the value then can change the buyer's interest rate, or because of the loan to value, because lenders base it upon loan to value, and sometimes your loan to value can change, but you can still do the loan, but you just sometimes might have to pay a little bit more points or a little bit more, a higher interest rate because of that loan to value.
Yeah, Stacey, and you and I know that dealing with our sellers or our buyers, sometimes there's not the cash available to make it up on the buyer's end, or the seller's also in a position where they've got to get X amount to get out and get on to their next endeavor.
And not go into a short sale situation or something like that. Yeah. When my agents come to me and they say, we just had an appraisal come in low, I just say, you go back, you talk to your lender and see what your options are. Because like Ross said, there are some options. And you're right, it all depends on how bad does the buyer want the house, how bad does the seller want to sell, and what their finances are.
Yeah. And when you get appraisal that is low, you go to work on things. You mentioned it. Sometimes you've even been in a position where you felt you've had to challenge an appraisal.
Right. So at that point in time, is you get together with the two agents and say, and they look at the appraisal and say, here's the comparables that they use. Do we feel there's anything out there that's more comparable? And then we send those up to the appraisal management company, and they take a look at it, and then they forward it on to the appraisers to feel if that's, something they'll take a look at to come up with a different value.
And Debbie, I've heard the appraisal management company several times now. There's another layer involved there. Can you shed a little light on that, of what their role is and how you interact with the company now into the new process that we operate under?
Sure. The appraisal management company is our voice to bring any questions the appraiser has back to the lender, and so that we don't talk directly with the lender. Mm. And they, they will give us information like title reports, legal descriptions, things like that if we need them, but more specifically and more usually contract information.
They sound mystical people almost in a faraway place that no one, can see or get to.
Right. We don't know where they are.
Yeah.
But they send us emails and call us on the phone. So, and that's how we get a lot of work. And the ones that I've worked with have been very good to work with. So I really have had great experiences. And they take care of both the lender and the appraiser.
Yeah. So is that who you go through then? Instead of the individual appraiser themselves.
Right, I go through appraisal management company.
Right,
and just as a side note, I'm not a big fan of the AMCs, but they're what they are. But when I always get when I'm giving my cost out, they're saying, "God, appraisals are so high." Well, you can thank the AMCs for it, or the law is because they have to make money.
They're adding costs.
They're adding costs to
it,
and so
that's the cost of that another layer that's involved.
And the appraisers have to make a good living. I mean, they have to make their living, so they have to make their fair good fee from it. So if you want, AMCs as I think they've taken the cost up a good 30%.
Mm.
Really? Yeah, I think so. I don't know what AMCs cost, so I don't know.
Yeah, because you don't know you don't know what the buyer's paying for it.
Right.
No.
But I can tell you when on a 442 or a 10, which is the appraiser goes out to reinspect the repairs to see if they're being, they charge $150. I know.
Really?
They seriously they do, and you're getting $50, maybe 75, and so they've doubled the cost of that.
Right.
Just had an eye opener here.
Yeah, I know. So I told you I wouldn't behave.
Dun, 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 dun.
So
breaking news on the real estate show.
So that's the biggest issue I have is that they've made the appraisals so expensive, and Oregon, to be honest with you, is the second highest cost of appraisals in the United States.
Wow.
Only Utah has some more expensive appraisals than we do here in Oregon.
And just per capita, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because we just probably don't do as many transactions and all of that. Debbie, how about keeping up as an appraiser with a real estate market that has gone to the peak, fallen off the cliff, and now over the time of the last 5 years or so is almost back on a track of where it might have been had we not had those really volatile years in the 2005 through 2011 in there. How do appraisers keep up with that? Josh Gibson, who's the Jackson County assessor, is on our program every year in October and just came through the radio show and the television show, and he's constantly trying to keep up with property values and gauge that as he goes along on a much bigger scale, countywide. But how do we keep up with those changing values? Because they've been dramatic in the way that they have come and gone in the last few years.
They change constantly, and it depends on the type of property you're looking at. Like we were talking about before, rural properties are appreciating at a slower rate than in-town properties. The very small homes and the least expensive homes are appreciating at a much higher rate than very expensive high-end homes. So it's all over the board. And we, as an appraiser, I actually look at the market conditions for the specific property I'm appraising. I do pay attention to the overall property, overall market conditions, and I look at the MLS statistics. Every month they come out with statistics regarding each city and how their median home price is going up or down and the percentage. But within that range is also a different range for the specific property that I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do a search. We all do our own searches for market conditions on each and every property.
You like to dig in and really get after the facts and delve, don't you? Yeah,
I do. I like to be confident.
Yeah,
when I'm doing an appraisal.
It takes a very thorough examination.
It does, and we're required to do it. Years and years ago, you could just know the market and go, yeah, it's appreciating, and now you have to prove it.
Yeah, and it's great we have people like you, because I'm not that way, and yeah, I would get kind of bogged down delving that deep, but thank goodness we've got experts. That's why we're all a little different, to cover all the bases, right? Hey, stay tuned. Ross Rampy, Stacy Bowles, and Debbie Poole are going to continue our real estate show for this Saturday, October 24th. Don't go away. We'll be right back and finish our conversation on appraisals today and keep you up to date on what's going on.
Here at the Real Estate Show,
Welcome back to the Real Estate Show, everybody. Ross Rampy is ready to go for our final segment here. Had to slow him down to get the microphones open to get to work on things.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. You said you were going to try to behave. None of us believed that it was going to happen, but you've been pretty. I'd say give you a pretty passing grade so far. We've still got about 7 minutes to go, though, so fasten your seatbelts there. We're finishing up Ross Rampy from Par Mortgage, Stacy Bowles from Keller Williams, and Debbie Poole from Deborah Poole Appraisers. And just kind of finishing our thoughts on keeping up with the fast-changing real estate market. We've had properties rise in value pretty quickly. Appraisers have to keep up with the comps, and that happens pretty fast. Stacy, when the market moves, boy, prices can jump really dramatically in a short period of time, and it's hard to keep up with that progress.
It is. I mean, just a couple of years ago, I know that a lot of people were buying flips, and 150 and under, or even 100 and under. I remember when the first contract went across my desk that was under 100,000, I went, oh my gosh, are we back in the 80s? But then all of a sudden the flippers had to realize that they had to up their price point. And so now we're seeing things closer to 200,000 and up where contractors are buying them, fixing them up, and selling them. But it was an interesting conversation with some of them where they had to really sit back and think, do I want to take this step up? Because they're putting in, a lot of investment into hoping that they can turn something over.
Yeah, there's certainly inventory is low. There's demand. Rental vacancy rates are very low, very hard to find. So there's definitely demand in the housing and rental market. Just can you get the units up? Can you get them built? Can you flip them fast enough to keep up with it?
Well, and I think it went through 2 years of not even seeing a new construction contract go across my desk. Yeah. And if you went down to the building department, they'd say, yeah, one permit was pulled out maybe for a remodel.
Yeah.
And seeing a lot more now, which is very, very encouraging.
Yeah, it is. And now you've got to keep up with new home building, Debbie. That's puts a new wrinkle on things because for a few years there weren't very many new homes to appraise or to have in your database or to keep up with your values tracking.
That's true. There wasn't, and they're really coming on as fast as they can now.
And we've seen the median home price for new homes take a big jump just from last year to this year. The MLS statistics for the 3-month snapshot. First off, we sold about 100 more homes for the July, August, September period this year compared to last year. Some of those, a good bit of those, were new homes that we've actually got built and got up, and thank goodness have now in the inventory. So you keep up with new prices as well. That's a whole different game. And we saw that median price jump. So again, that's a little challenge for the appraiser to keep up with that. It moves fast.
It does, and I look on the MLS every day, and they list how many active listings there are in the past 24 hours, and they also list how many pending sales have been in the last 24 hours. And it's for the past, 4 months, it's been neck and neck. They're selling them as fast as they can list them.
Yeah, they really are. And in fact, on the board of John L. Scott, I think far more are going out than are coming. New listings are coming in right now.
Oh, and multiple offer situations like we hadn't seen since the big boom.
Yeah. So that's keeping the lenders busy, Ross, right?
Yep.
Got new homes to sell. There's the higher priced homes in our valley are back on the move and really kind of a big part of what's moving in the market right now.
Right. I'm keeping busy.
Yeah, you always do. Been at it for a long time. I think folks are pretty. I've done a couple deals with you and been had good experiences.
Well, thank you.
Played some great golf with Ross too. So Debbie, what's ahead in the appraisal game? Things have settled down a little bit now. The market hopefully hit kind of a normal stride for you. You've been through with all of us, just the Jekyll and Hyde of things in the last 10 years.
Right. Well, I think all the appraisers I know are just trying to get as many appraisals done as they can. We're being bombarded with requests.
That's what you said, yeah. And even Klamath Falls is desperate for appraisers over there.
They are. And there's a shortage of appraisers. And with our current market, there's just a high need. A lot of properties being sold, they need a lot more appraisals to be done. And so our turn times are becoming longer, and the lenders don't like that. They want to close as soon as, and I'm sure the realtors as well, they want to close as soon as they can. And if the appraisal takes 2 or 3 weeks to get it back, that it's just one more component.
And got to prepare our clients for that as well, Stacy.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, to reach your appraisal height, you have to have a college degree. You have to go through 2 years of appraisal school. Then you have to have 2 years of apprenticeship, which means that somebody like Debbie also has to take 2 years out of her life to be the mentor, per se, for a new appraiser. And when you add all that up, I don't think they even make minimum wage. And when you add then the appraisal management system on top of it. So I was just up in Sun River for our OIR state convention, and the very first roundtable I went into was talking with appraisal management companies and with some appraisers. And the difficulty of how it is to get qualified appraisers and how the pool of appraisers is getting smaller and smaller. And I think the Oregon Association of Realtors at the state level is going to be working with the appraisal board and trying to help, I don't want to say lower the bar, but maybe trying to facilitate getting more appraisers into the business.
My gosh, you should have a PhD for the 2 years of school, the 2 years of mentorship. That's like your 2 years of internship in a hospital. I mean, it's almost like a doctorate when you get done all of that.
Right. The current requirements are for a college degree, and then you get your appraisal training for 2,000 hours is the minimum. And
at times, realtors and clients and lenders get a little frustrated with appraisers, but in our hearts and in our minds, we know how important your work is.
We love our appraisers.
And how important that work is to get good loans made on properties of value that are truly of that value and will truly meet the needs of the client going forward, because that's big in their future too. You get into a house that really isn't worth what you thought it was or what that sales price was, and you may come out on the wrong end down the line, or not where you certainly could be. So very, very important work that's done.
Right. And I try to think of course, my client is the lender, and I am in place to protect the lender from doing a deal that if they turned around and that property came back to them, that they need to be able to sell it at the price that it was purchased for. And that's my job, is to make sure that it's worth that.
And we saw when there were lending problems.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we see too are because the appraisers do work for the lenders, they are being more cautious. They don't want to see what happened back,
Listen, we went to the brink economically in this country because the housing market almost failed because of all those failed loans. And
the lending regulations are tighter now too, which is good.
And the appraisals rules are different and are changed. And Debbie says for the better. You're just more insulated to just really focus and do your job and get a fair result in the end.
That's right.
Awesome. How can folks get a hold of you, Debbie?
They can call me at 541-951-3324.
And I just made you give your name or your number out to all the realtors, but we won't call you.
That's okay.
Yeah, we won't call you.
I love realtors. They call me all the time.
Thank you for stopping by and sharing some great knowledge today.
Thanks so much,
Stacy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come back again. Ross, you as
Thanks,
well.
Joe.
It was a great talk and great show with you guys. Thank you very much.
Real Estate Show on KMED AM and FM radio, presented by John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon, along with All Cities Property Management, the Home Builders Association of Jackson County, Ditech Mortgage, the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District, and the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. For guest information or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshowOregon.com. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only Real Estate Show on KMED.